For today's lesson, we are going to be talking about Latin America. You can see on the map, I have Latin America highlighted, and Latin America spans from Mexico all the way down to Tierra del Fuego, which is at the very tip of South America. So if we zoom in far enough, you'll be able to see where Tierra del Fuego is on the map. And this is the southernmost tip of South America, and drove from Mexico to this tip, you would be driving 7,000 miles. So we can see right here Tierra del Fuego, and if we zoom out, we can see that that is the southernmost tip of Latin America. The first thing we want to look at when we're specifically looking at Latin America is the Andes Mountains. That's probably one of the most popular landmarks or landforms in South America. And I have this mountain icon that shows you where the Andes Mountains are. These mountains actually run through western North America, through Central America, and into South America. In North America, we call this mountain range the Rockies. In Mexico, we call it Sierra Madre. And then in South America, we call it the Andes. So if we zoom in on our map on the Andes, you can see what they really look like. We got the snow caps, so you can tell that the elevation is pretty high there on our Andes Mountains. Just like if you went to Colorado now, you would see snow caps on the Rocky Mountains, which is really the same range. There is also a lot of active volcanoes along this mountain range. So if you followed it along, you would see a lot of volcanoes. Here is a picture of our beautiful Andes Mountains. So go back to our map, zoom out a little bit so you can see that better. These mountains, as you can tell, they're really close to the west coast. So they kind of acted like a barrier for settlers coming on this side of South America. That's why we see that most of the settlement in this area is on the eastern and on the northern spot. Because if you came in from this western area, you'd have to cross those, which wouldn't be an easy task. We also have highlands. So we looked at the mountains, and then a highland is a mountainous or hilly region in a country. And we have multiple highlands in this region. Guiana Highlands up in the northeast, we can zoom in on that. You can find that in northeast South America, the Guiana Highlands. You also have the Venezuela Highlands, Guyana, Suriname, French Guiana, and the Brazilian Highlands. And here is an image of the Guiana Highlands. So that looks like it's pretty cool. And we can go back to our map and zoom out, because now we've looked at both the Andes Mountains and the highlands of this region. They also have a lot of plains, and one thing they use those for is livestock and to plant grain. And the main region that we see these plains at are in Colombia and Venezuela. Okay, so if we zoom out far enough, I had the mountain icon for the mountainous and highland regions. Then I have this grass icon for the plains and where you can grow the grains and the livestock. So let's see where they are at. We have one up here in Venezuela, like I told you, and then there's another one down here by Brazil. So we have a plain there. And one thing when we talk about plains is llanos. Okay, a llanos, as you see right here, is a grassy treeless area used for livestock grazing and farming. So in those areas, you would see similar landform regions like you would see in the Great Plains region that we're used to. Then we're going to look at cerrado. Okay, a cerrado is a savanna with a flat terrain and moderate rainfall that makes them suitable for farming. And we have one of those up here in Brazil, like I was telling you about. And that's why we have the little grass icon right there. A pampas is an area of grassland and rich soil. These are found in Uruguay and Argentina. So we have that region down here with this grass icon. Here they can produce a lot of cattle, wheat, and grain. So we'll look at an image of a pampas right here, and you can see them farming. And then a llanos, you can see, like I said, there aren't a lot of trees. It's flat and grassy, and that's what a llanos would look like. We have a lot of rivers when we talk about Latin America, and there's three main ones that we are going to cover. And the first one is the Orinoco River, and that is the northern part of the continent up by Venezuela. So we look on this one, I have the rivers shown with these blue wavy lines. That's the Orinoco River. So let's see if we can zoom in and get a better look of it. This is in the northern part, mainly in Venezuela, and it stretches for 1,500 miles. And you can see if we zoom in here, it's a fairly large river, because you can see it from this height, and it looks that wide. The one that everyone is most familiar with is the Amazon, and the Amazon River is humongous. If you've ever been to the Mississippi, that's about as close as we can compare, but it is a lot bigger than the Mississippi. The Amazon flows from west to east, and it carries more water than any other river in the world, carrying the water to the ocean. And if you looked at the 7 rivers that are behind the Amazon for water, all of them combined don't carry as much as the Amazon does. So this is kind of a neat image. If we zoom in, it's the mouth of the Amazon River, and you can see how much water is being taken in and dispersed from the ocean from this river, because it's just a huge place. So that's a cool image of the river itself. We'll zoom back out and continue when this map wants to, because next we're going to go to the Parana River, origin in southern Brazil, and this one stretches for 3,000 miles. So here's Brazil, and then here is our Parana River. Exit out of this so that isn't annoying me. Okay, now we're going to talk about island chains, things that you guys are probably used to. Some of you have probably been there. I've been there once, and it's incredible. The first island chain that we're going to talk about is the Bahamas. And the Bahamas isn't just one island. It's actually hundreds of islands off the southern tip of Florida and north of Cuba. So you have Bahamas right here. Then we have 2 other sections of islands, and one of them we call the Greater Antilles. And this is made up of Cuba, Jamaica, Hispaniola, and then we have the Lesser Antilles. These are smaller islands in the region southeast of Puerto Rico, so right here. Okay, these are divided Leeward Islands and Leeward Islands. And the Leeward Islands are more sheltered from the northeasterly winds, so they're probably a little more bearable. The resources we're going to cover briefly in Latin America. A lot of the same as we looked in when we looked in Canada and the United States, really, but we have mineral resources like gold and silver, and a lot of these are retrieved through mines. They have a lot of mines in Latin America. They also have energy resources like oil and natural gas. Where you'll find the major oil reserves are in Mexico, which you all know where Mexico is, hopefully, and then in Venezuela. Okay, so that is where you're going to find a lot of the oil reserves. Brazil, you're going to find hydroelectric power, and that should really be no surprise to you because of the huge amount of rivers that Latin America has. So hydroelectric power goes hand in hand with the big rivers. And there's also a lot of agricultural resources like forest and timber, and we looked at those when we looked at the plains areas and the other areas with a lot of grass and trees.